Tonight, Donald Trump rides the red wave to the White House to become the 47th president of the United States.
The greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country.
How he read the political pulse of the nation.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
And a stinging loss for Kamala Harris, leaving the Democrats wondering what went wrong. The political and economic consequences for Canada.
I look forward to working with President Trump once again.
Чітке лідерство президента Трампа.
Plus, how world leaders are responding to the potential risks and rewards. A hockey player in hot water after losing his cool on a fan. And wacky weather swings.
It's amazing and very unusual.
The cold facts about a freakishly warm fall.
Canadians are rejoicing in this kind of unseasonably balmy temperatures.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina reporting tonight from Washington.
Good evening, everyone. Political leaders from Canada and the world are preparing for the impact of another Donald Trump presidency tonight. Trump completing a stunning political comeback and becoming only the second president in U.S. history to win 2 non-consecutive terms. The decisive victory sealed earlier today as he passed the 270 electoral college vote mark needed to win the White House. It was also a devastating defeat for Kamala Harris, conceding today and giving an emotional speech to her supporters. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin has more on how it all unfolded. Joy.
Omar, Americans hungered for a change and saw that in Donald Trump.
Talk about a stunning political comeback. Surrounded by family and supporters, even Donald Trump seemed surprised.
It is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
His historic win powered by frustrations over high prices and fears about illegal migrants on the border and crime. A world in chaos, Trump said, that only he can fix.
Union, non-union, African-American, Hispanic-American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful.
4 years after voters rejected him, impeached twice, convicted of 34 felonies, and indicted over the January 6th attack, that will likely go away. Sitting presidents can't be prosecuted.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, but hear me when I say the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up and as long as we keep fighting.
For Kamala Harris, it's a stinging defeat. Her supporters crushed, rising to the top of the Democratic ticket after President Joe Biden dropped out. She struggled to separate herself from an unpopular administration in her short 15-week campaign.
I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Leaving her political options open as the country shifts right. Trump, who survived 2 assassination attempts, used dark, sometimes violent language to attack Democrats and Harris. She, in turn, called him a fascist.
It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite.
President Biden has invited the new president-elect to the White House, something Trump did not do for Biden, who will address the nation tomorrow. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you. As we mentioned, the U.S., Canada, and much of the world now anxiously awaiting Trump's first big moves when he officially takes the oath of office in January. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin looks at what he's planning to do this time as president.
Donald Trump supporters near Mar-a-Lago applauded promises they believe he will tick off his to-do list.
Well, of course, the border. Got to close the border, stop these people from crossing. Second thing, they've got to drill, baby, drill. You got to get that liquid gold out of the ground so we can get those gas prices back down to $1.80 a gallon.
An immigration crackdown, oil are among Trump's priorities for his first 100 days.
Immediately upon taking the oath of office, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history.
A message loudly denounced by human rights advocates, but that landed with many voters. So did his promise to cut taxes, boost wages, and impose global tariffs, even though those are often passed on to consumers. Stocks roared this morning, including Tesla's, making Elon Musk billions richer. Under Trump 2.0's plan, he will be in charge of cost cutting.
He's going to have a big role in healthcare.
And anti-vaxxer Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in charge of health, though he has peddled conspiracy theories.
COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people.
Trump has also said he will crack down on crime and promised to keep his promises.
I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people.
Still, that list of promises is long, and some critics say he's been short on detail as to just how he can deliver on them all. Omar.
All right, Genevieve, thank you. Well, as Jen mentioned, the stock markets are betting on Donald Trump. The three major indexes in the U.S. all hit record highs. The Dow Jones was up 3.6%. The Nasdaq Composite rose 3%, and the S&P 500 was up 2.5%. The TSX rose as well, up over 1% today. The digital currency Bitcoin also hit a new high of more than $75,000. Let's bring in CTV News political analyst Eric Hammond. Eric, when you drill down on the data, it's clear that Donald Trump made gains in nearly every single demographic. Where did he get his biggest boost?
The biggest boost came with Latino men who actually swung from Joe Biden in 2020 to Donald Trump in 2024. And this was a 33-point swing. And so what you saw last night was 54% of Latino men went with Donald Trump. That was enough, I think, to actually get him a margin of victory in many of those key swing states.
So what do you think the Democrats are thinking right now as they see a splintering of their base? What questions are they going to be asking as they go through their political soul searching?
Well, here's something else that we saw play out last night. In the early vote, we saw a massive gender gap between men and women, and Democrats thought that they were actually doing very, very well with women. But what we saw again in those breakdowns was that Donald Trump was able to hold on to the biggest demographic of them all on Tuesday night, and that was white women. White women made up 37% of the overall electorate, and Donald Trump won white women with 53% of the vote. And quite frankly, this has always been Donald Trump's superpower, his ability to win white women, which is the largest demographic. And so what we saw was that massive gender gap was actually splintering and moving towards Donald Trump, not to Kamala Harris.
All right, Eric, thank you. American Google searches for how to move north surged as the votes were being counted. Searches for how to legally move to Canada increased by 200% in the past day, according to Google Trends. Back in 2016, when Donald Trump was first elected as president, a massive spike in traffic caused Canada's immigration website to crash. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau spoke to Donald Trump on the phone today. The two discussed trade and security. It was a thorny relationship the first time around, and Trump's tariff threats could have a major impact on Canada's economy. CTV's Mike LeCouture has more on what's at stake in the bilateral relationship and has more on that call. Mike.
Omar, according to a senior Canadian government source, it was a warm conversation where President-elect Trump said they had a great relationship in his first term and got a lot done together. Despite that, the Trudeau government knows all too well the relationship can be unpredictable.
Canada will be absolutely fine.
A call for calm from the Deputy Prime Minister as Canadians wonder what the U.S. election results will mean for the cross-border relationship.
I look forward to working with President Trump once again to strengthen North American economic opportunities for the middle class.
President-elect Donald Trump has signaled he wants to review the trilateral trade deal between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, something that could threaten our deeply integrated auto sector.
I think we need to take him seriously. We need to demonstrate once again that half of the cars made in this country are made by American car companies.
I can tell you that Donald Trump is going to be watching very closely to make certain that America that our industries at home come first.
To ensure that happens, Trump has promised to impose a 10% tariff on all goods imported by the U.S. But economists warn that measure could hurt people on both sides of the border.
We'll see higher prices, higher interest rates because inflation won't go away, and that will slow down the economy and the purchasing power of Americans, consequently, cascading over the border.
Despite those threats, federal ministers say the outreach to Trump's team has already begun.
The good thing for Canadians is we're ready. Actually, I was already texting folks in the United States and they're responding. So this is good.
Minister Champagne has led the government charm offensive over the last year, but some experts believe it needs to be wider.
If there's a way for the Trudeau government to present something that smells a little less partisan, that comes from all of Canadians, they'll have a better chance of tapping into the goodwill that most Americans have towards Canada.
And Minister Champagne says the key is leveraging that goodwill while also reminding Americans that Canada is an important strategic and economic partner. Omar.
All right, Mike, thank you. Let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Vassy Kapelos right now. And Vassy, now that we know who the victor is, what is Canada's strategy moving forward?
Well, as Mike mentioned, it's all about engagement. To engage with people who are in Trump's orbit. They did that very well to give the government credit back in 2016. The difference this time around is that there is way more ambiguity about who exactly is in Trump's orbit, since so many of the people they engaged with back then during the initial NAFTA negotiations have left it, have rebuked him, are nowhere to be found anymore. So that is going to be a big challenge for them as they do re-employ this strategy of engagement.
One of the key pressure points coming in from the U.S. has been defense spending. There has been a push to accelerate that defense spending. Will Canada do that? What are you hearing?
Yeah, that's the big question, because that push to accelerate is coming straight from someone who is essentially a Trump surrogate, his former ambassador to Canada, Kelly Craft, whom he remains very close with. She has told CTV News blatantly in 2 interviews now, she wants to see the government of Canada, and Donald Trump does, spend more on defense and spend more quickly. I spoke to Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly tonight. She wasn't clear. She didn't say yes, she didn't say no. She said she wants to talk more about spending on defense. She understands the impetus from the U.S., but she did not provide a conclusive answer. And I'm telling you, based on what Kelly Craft said, the pressure will be on the Canadian government to do so.
A lot of pressure, but still a lot of unknowns. Vassy, thank you so much.
Anytime.
Having had dinner with President-elect Trump just a few weeks ago, I look forward to working with him in the years to come.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer congratulated Trump as reaction from world leaders comes in. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says he appreciates Donald Trump's commitment to the peace and strength approach in global affairs, but concerns remain about Trump's relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin and previous threats to withdraw from NATO. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was one of the first to call and congratulate Trump, releasing a statement calling it a huge victory. And Hamas called on Trump to, quote, work seriously to stop the war. Coming up, an unruly amateur ends up in the penalty box.
I don't think there's any rule for such actions.
The off-ice brawl between a player and a fan. Plus, Ottawa cracks down on TikTok in Canada. The Canadian government has ordered TikTok to wind up its business in Canada. In a statement, the industry minister says he's taking action to address specific national security risks. The move is related to the Chinese social media giant's establishment of TikTok Technology Canada and will not affect Canadians from using the app or creating content. A TikTok spokesperson says the order will destroy hundreds of well-paying jobs and says the company will challenge it in court. Dozens of bread products are being recalled after pieces of metal were found. The recall affects certain products across 8 different brands. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says the affected products were shipped to Ontario, Quebec, and Newfoundland and Labrador. 2 employees at a Toronto car dealership are facing nearly 200 charges. They're accused of buying and selling stolen cars.
The dealership's own funds were then used to buy the vehicles, which were fraudulently presented as legitimate to unsuspecting buyers.
Police allege the suspects created fake sales paperwork using stolen or phony vehicle identification numbers. Police say they've linked 22 fraudulent sales to the accused. A Newfoundland hockey player has been suspended and banned from a small-town arena after a fight with a group of fans off the ice. It happened in one of Newfoundland's senior men's hockey leagues. CTV's Garrett Berry has more details on the story.
Security video from October 26 shows defenseman Justin Pender walking down the arena hallway and punching, at least 3 times, a spectator to that night's match. It followed an on-ice incident where the player received a 10-minute misconduct and a slashing penalty when he broke his stick on an opposing player late in the third period. It was a lopsided game that was getting a little bit out of hand. A hefty 122 penalty minutes were handed out in the third period. Pender received a 3-game suspension from the Avalon East Senior Hockey League. Also, Harbour Grace's mayor, Don Coombs, says the player has been given an indefinite ban from the Danny Cleary Community Center. The fan in question has also been banned for several weeks for his part in instigating the conflict and taunting the player outside the dressing rooms. Police say they have not been asked to investigate. Ivan Hapgood, who is the general manager of the Clarenville Caribous, said clearly today that he does not condone the actions of his player. He said they've had a blunt conversation about what happened. But Hapgood has also said that there was no type of arena security that could have stopped the fans from reaching the dressing room area. He said that would have prevented this incident. The town of Harbour Grace has now insisted on changes, and at future games there will be security staff in the building.
Fortunately, nobody's seriously hurt, but we can have it going on again. Things being thrown, and punches being punched and thrown, and.
Pender's 3-game suspension will finish this weekend. And as for that arena ban, the mayor says it's indefinite but not permanent. It's likely to be revisited sometime in the future. Omar?
All right, Garrett, thank you. There is a hockey connection to events celebrating the life of Indigenous trailblazer Murray Sinclair, who died this week. A public memorial will be held Sunday at the Canada Life Centre, home of the Winnipeg Jets. Sinclair was a former judge and senator who chaired the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He was 73 years old. Still ahead. Explosive wildfires fueled by fierce winds erupt in California. A major drug bust to tell you about in the Pacific Ocean. The Mexican Navy seized 3.6 tons of cocaine off the coast of Acapulco. The large haul was discovered inside what is known as a Go Fast boat. The drugs were found in 102 packages wrapped in plastic and shaped like bricks. 9 people were also arrested. Cocaine from South America is often shipped through the Pacific on its way to the United States. Multiple wildfires are raging near Los Angeles, including an explosive inferno that burned dozens of homes to the ground within minutes.
Right now, there's absolutely no containment on this. It is burning out of control.
The mountain fire, fueled by howling sporadic winds, exploded to more than 40 square kilometers.
I texted my husband about 8:55, and I said, I smell smoke, and it seems close. And I went outside, and I saw all the black smoke coming. So we just started getting our animals, and within 30 minutes, it was already coming over the hill.
The furious flames forced evacuations, threatened structures, and left several people injured. First responders rushed door to door to rescue trapped elderly residents in wheelchairs. Another brutal fire further south in Malibu, starting in dry brush, quickly jumped to homes. Authorities shut the Pacific Coast Highway in both directions as crews battled on the ground, and choppers dropped water from above. Hurricane Rafael slammed into Cuba as a Category 3 storm, causing the power system to collapse. Powerful winds of 185 kilometers per hour pummeled the Caribbean island. Tens of thousands have been forced from their homes with warnings of storm surges, flash flooding, and mudslides. This comes just weeks after millions were left in the dark for 4 days following a blackout triggered by the country's weak energy infrastructure. It also coincided with Hurricane Oscar, which claimed 6 lives. Well, snow was finally spotted on Japan's Mount Fuji today after the longest delay in recorded history. This was the first time in 130 years the country's tallest mountain was snowless in early November. Officials haven't officially declared the new record yet because of heavy clouds, but locals have posted pictures of the snow-capped summit. And a Scottish zoo is hoping to match the excitement of a hippo in Thailand that has become an internet sensation. The Edinburgh Zoo welcomed a pygmy hippo named Haggis. Scotland Zoological Society is hoping Haggis will attract as much attention as Mudang, currently the most famous pygmy hippo in the world. So far, it seems to be paying off. In just one day, organizers have raised over $25,000 in a contest where the winners get a meet and greet with Haggis and her parents. After the break, the science behind the summer-like conditions across parts of Canada. Wild weather swings are becoming more common in Canada. Ontario and Quebec are currently experiencing some unseasonably warm temperatures this November, something experts say is directly connected to climate change. CTV's Alex Karpa has the details.
Canadians in many different parts of the country enjoying warmer than normal temperatures this fall.
It really has been a very slow, one of the longest falls that I've ever seen.
Ottawa and Montreal seeing temperatures soar to the high teens and low 20s this week, while Toronto smashed a 65-year-old record, reaching temperatures of 22 degrees.
Canadians are rejoicing in this kind of unseasonably balmy temperatures from almost coast to coast, and certainly no sign of winter in the Great White North, and it may not be until late November until we get into December.
Communities in southern Manitoba also feeling the warmer temperatures. Phillips saying the southeastern city of Steinbach has now gone 15 consecutive months where the average temperature was warmer than normal.
I mean, it could be 2 consecutive years without seeing a temperature that was, say, significantly cooler than normal.
While many Canadians are enjoying the beautiful weather, the numbers are concerning to some who believe the warmer temperatures point signs to a bigger problem.
It really is a sign that the climate around the world is changing.
Data from Environment and Climate Change Canada shows the national average temperature in 2023 was 2.8 degrees Celsius, which was the second warmest year on record since 1948.
Canada's warming at least twice as fast as the global average. Now we expect global warming to exceed 1.5 degrees before it is brought under control, if not approach 2 degrees overall, which could mean, therefore, twice as much warming for Canada.
Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
And that's a snapshot of this Wednesday from Washington. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast. Canada's #1 newscast for excellence in journalism.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Newscast. Watch weeknights at 11.